Hi, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yep, we're all live on YouTube.
Brilliant. Thank you, Vic. Welcome, everyone, to this meeting of Finance, Audit and Risk. It's being conducted with members and officers at various locations, communicating via audio, video and online. Before the meeting starts, I'd like to invite the committee member and scrutiny officer to explain how proceedings will work and to confirm that members and officers are in attendance. Matthew.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm just going to run through a roll call. Councillor Aspinwall.
Here.
And Councillor North is currently absent. Councillor Collins.
Hello.
Councillor Deakin Davies.
Can't be heard.
Do you want to just unmute yourself, Councillor Deakin Davies?
I actually did, and then there's a machine lag.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Derbyshire.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Ruggiero Shaka.
Present.
Thank you. And Councillor Weeks is currently absent. And officers, Ian Cooper.
Present. Yeah.
Suresh Patel.
Good evening.
Mark Chalkley.
Present.
Nazir Mohammed.
Present.
And Melanie Stimpson.
Present.
Thank you. I'm just going to go through the proceedings for this evening. The meeting is being streamed live on the Council's YouTube channel and Zoom. If live stream fails, the meeting will adjourn. If the live stream cannot be restored within a reasonable period, then the remaining business will be considered at a time and date fixed by the Chair. If the Chair does not fix a date, the remaining business will be considered at the next ordinary meeting. If for any reason the meeting is not quorate, an officer will notify attendees by interjecting the meeting will adjourn immediately. Once the meeting is quorate, the meeting will resume. If connection cannot be restored within a reasonable period, then the remaining business will be considered at a time and date fixed by the Chair. If the Chair does not fix a date, the remaining business will be considered at the next ordinary meeting. Only members present for the entire debate and consideration of an item are entitled to vote. If technology fails for a member during the debate and rejoins the meeting, they will not be able to vote on that item. If technology fails for a member of public who attends to exercise their right to speak and is unable to do so, the Chair may decide to proceed to the next item of business to allow for connection to be re-established. If connection cannot be restored within a reasonable period, the Chair can decide to conclude the remaining business or consider the remaining business at a time and date fixed by the Chair. If the Chair does not fix a date, the remaining business will be considered at the next ordinary meeting. Please ensure that your electronic devices are muted, and please activate the mute button on your tablet or computer when you're not speaking. If a member wishes to speak, they should use the raise hand button that's located under participants, and this will alert the host that you wish to speak. The host will inform the Chair of the names of the speakers who should wait to be invited by the Chair to address the committee. Please not use the reactions hand symbol. And in terms of voting, when requested to vote, voting will be via the green tick for yes, red cross for no, and blue hand for abstain. And this is also located in the participant section at the bottom of your screen. To enable the votes to be counted, please do not clear your vote until requested to do so. Please do not vote until it has been confirmed that all raised hands have been cleared. Details of how members voted will not be kept or minuted unless a recorded vote was requested or an individual requests that their vote be recorded, and it will not be heard or seen on the audio and YouTube recordings of the meeting. The committee member and scrutiny officer will clearly state the result of the vote, and the Chair will proceed to the next agenda item. In the event of a tied vote, the Chair will have the casting vote. And before I hand back to the Chair, are there any questions? Okay, thank you, Chair. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to rattle through this as quickly as we can. So I'll start off with the first apologies for absence. We've had none, unless there are any coming in late. Is there anyone that has received any from any of their colleagues? Nope, so no apologies for absence. I've had no notification of any other business either. The announcements that I need to make are around audio recording. In accordance with council policy, this meeting is being audio recorded as well as filmed. The audio recordings will be available to view on ModGov, and the film recording is available via the NHDC YouTube channel. Declarations of interest. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. The detailed reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under the Chair's announcements on the agenda. I've got no public participation for this evening, so that leads us straight into item 5, the update to the 2019-2020 audit plan. Suresh Patel and Nazir Mohammed from EY to present.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, thank you, Chair. Yeah, let me just formally introduce Nazir Mohammed, who's the audit manager who will be looking after the audit for this year. I'm going to ask Nazir to talk a little bit about the paper that we've got presented to you, but let me just introduce it. So last time the committee met, I think back in January, we came with our 2019-20 audit plan. Obviously, some things have changed since then. So the purpose of the paper, it's for information, but it's to give you an update on what we have, what is the impact of COVID-19 on not only the audit, but also your financial reporting responsibilities. So we'll pick out a couple of the key items and then take questions at the end. So I suppose that one of the biggest changes is on the timetable. If you recall, last year, it was quite a challenge for both the council and for us to complete the audit by the 31st of July. In light of COVID, MHCLG have actually relaxed the timetable significantly, as you see there. So you have until the 31st of August to publish your draft accounts and until the end of November to publish audited accounts. It's pleasing to note that through our engagement with the finance team is actually preparing its accounts as we speak. I think we're expecting them either later this week or early next week. So despite the challenges that COVID has presented, that's only sort of 3 weeks later than the previous years, which I think is a very good. It's testament to the ability of council officers to be able to continue to operate despite all the challenges presented. We've also agreed and kept to a timetable in terms of being able to carry out that audit as quickly as possible. So as you see there, the plan is to start on the 6th of July, and that will run for 4 or 5 weeks. So our work will be substantially completed before sort of middle of August. And in terms of conclusion, it kind of depends on the committee dates moving forward, and we can come to that later on. So clearly COVID has presented some challenges, and there are some specific issues that auditors are highlighting to local authorities. On page 5, the biggest item is around going concern, and I've kind of outlined there from our perspective what the issues are. I suppose it's worth just being clear. So we are not challenging the fact that the council is a going concern. Clearly, there is no suggestion that government will cease the council's operations. What we are looking at is the disclosures that the council will make in its financial statements in terms of any uncertainties around future funding. I'm sure you're aware, as I am, of reports in the trade press in particular of councils who are looking at significant difficulties in light of the impact of COVID on revenue streams and additional expenditure. So I know that the Service Director of Resources is currently assessing the impact of COVID in terms of your medium-term financial plan, and it's that kind of assessment that we'll be looking for to underpin disclosures in the accounts. And as I say there, the key from an audit perspective is our audit report in terms of going concern actually covers a 12-month period from the date we sign that auditor report. So assuming we signed your account in September, our audit report is asserting that you are a going concern and your disclosures are appropriate for that going concern assertion for the following 12 months up to September 2021. So there will be an expectation that you'll be making some assumptions about what the impact of COVID-19 could be on your 21-22 financial year. So that's obviously significantly different to previous years where we haven't had that level of uncertainty, and our going concern work tends to be more on the basis that you've got a medium-term financial plan in place and you've got savings plans, etc., etc. So that's one big change. The second one is over on page 6, which I was going to ask Nazir to talk about.
Thanks, Suresh. So as Suresh mentioned that there is an impact on the statements due to COVID-19. I would like to just cover a few things, especially where there is potential significant uncertainty about the duration extent of disruption. The first one we looked was like the property, plant and equipment, including investment property valuations. While we did our audit plan back in March, our assessment on valuation was just area of concern, and we didn't identify any significant risk. However, looking at the uncertainties involved in the property market, we reassessed the risk, and we believe that there is a significant risk involved, especially in terms of investment property valuations. And looking at your investment property listings, we noted that there is one property of significance, which is Churchgate Shopping Centre. So to assess the risk of uncertainty, we'll be engaging our real estate specialists to support our audit procedures. In addition to PP valuations, we'll be also looking at impairment of receivables. So we understand that as an impact of COVID-19, there might be potential of increased bad debts when it comes to receivables. So we'll understand the significant adjustments made by the management when it comes to bad debts provisions. In terms of our audit delivery, in terms of remote working, we do have sufficient tools in place to continue with audit as expected. We are currently working with the finance team and we haven't faced any issues as such. So we believe that we'll be able to complete the audit as expected, even though we are working remotely. However, there might be certain challenges when it comes to getting an audit evidence. For example, previously, we used to just sit with the finance team to understand how things work, but there would be certain challenges when it comes to remote working. So we need to come up with alternative procedures and also understand how best we can work with the finance team.
Then just two final things on the paper. One is about the audit report. So post COVID-19, all audit firms have put in place additional consultation processes for their audit reports, and so this is to ensure that that level of uncertainty that we've kind of referred to is adequately reflected in auditor reports. So the property valuations one, for example, elsewhere in the public sector, we are what's called putting emphasis on matter in our audit reports to reflect the fact that you're disclosing some uncertainties around those valuations. So that will be an additional consultation process that we'll go through when we reach the stage of drafting your audit report. And then finally, and this picks up on issues that I've reported in the past about the audit market and increasing regulation. I have shared a proposal about increasing the scale fee with Ian, and also we'll be revisiting that fee in light of the additional work that we're required to do as a result of the impact of COVID-19. So, Chair, I'm happy to stop there and take any questions.
Lovely, thank you very much, and welcome, Nazir. Any questions or comments? Ian, did you want to come in and comment on that at all, or do you want to, should we open it up to everyone first?
Happy to do the questions first.
Okay. Any questions or comments? I've got no hands raised. If you would like to ask any questions, if you can raise your hand, and with the little blue button in the bottom. Okay, none at all. Ian, do you have any commentary around that?
I suppose just to say on the fees, our audit contract is through the public sector audit appointments, and any fee changes requested by auditors, we can either agree directly with the auditor or refer them on to public sector audit appointments, PSAA. It is my intention that I will be referring, as I've discussed with Suresh, that we would refer any fee requests on to PSAA. They are there to kind of manage that kind of process, and therefore I think it's fair on both sides to take it through that process.
Lovely, thank you. I would just like to get a little further clarification as far as is possible around the audit delivery. Obviously, you've made reference there to the enormous changes that we're going through and the impact that that's had on everybody. How feasible is, well, when are we looking at audit delivery, at the next audit delivery? I see that you've made great strides with the finance team. Congratulations to them, but obviously there will be impacts. I don't know whether the two of you want to take that together.
So, I mean, in terms of our audit chair, so we've actually, the last 2 months, we've been auditing the NHS entities, and remote working has worked remarkably well, probably better than we thought, in fairness. I think things like Zoom and Teams and, you know, all different facilities that we've now got to be able to observe. So we observe finance officers preparing reports now rather than sitting down next to them. As Nazir said, that there are occasions when we need a hard copy of something that you've got in an office somewhere, and we've had to just think about how to deal with that kind of thing. And inevitably things just take a little bit longer because you're having to organise a call rather than just popping around the corner to see somebody or going to somebody's desk. But we actually can do our work remotely, and we've shown that now for the last 2 months. And I think from engaging with Ian and his team, it looks like you're able to do the same with us. So I think in terms of audit delivery, that 4 to 5 week period that we've got blocked in should be okay. Obviously, subject to any unforeseen absences in terms of sickness, etc. But our plan is to get through that audit, like I say, within 4 or 5 weeks. I wasn't sure when your next committee was in terms of then concluding the audit. I don't know if that was going to be the next question, but our audit will be substantially complete by the middle of August.
Brilliant, thank you, Suresh. Ian, did you have any commentary on that?
Just on the dates of our future committee, so 7th of September is the next meeting of the committee. Hopefully we'll be able to sign off the accounts there. If not, the one after that isn't until the 3rd of December, which would be too late. So if the worst happens in terms of not being able to deliver the audit by the 7th of September, we'd have to bring the December meeting forward into the end of November. But that would still be then compliant with the extended deadlines for approval of the accounts.
Brilliant.
Week.
Thank you, and well done to everyone. It's been a big change in the way that we work, and yeah, minimal impact. So well done, thank you. Okay, if there are no further hands raised, no hands raised at all, we'll move back to where we were. Just bear with me 1 minute because I'm flipping between different items. One sec. Okay. Right then, so on to, oh, we need to vote on this, do we, Matthew?
Yes, Chair, it's to note, but you're welcome to vote on it if it's just to note, but you can vote on that.
Okay, so the recommendation is that we note the update on the 2019-2020 audit plan. I think given that this is remote, we ought to probably just do the votes as a matter of course anyway. Everybody clear on how they vote? It's a yes if you want to note the update to the plan, or a no if you do not. If you could just click on the button on the right there to indicate which way you vote. I think that's everyone.
Okay, that's everyone, Chair. Yeah, that's resolved. Okay.
Resolved, passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Let's move on then to item 6, which Mark shortly will be presenting for us. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Chair. So I've got the first of my reports is the annual assurance statement and the internal audit report for 2019-20. The recommendations on the front are to note the assurance statement in the internal audit annual report, note the results of the self-assessment required by the public sector internal audit standards, accept the audit charter, and seek management assurance from the Service Director of Resources that the scope and resources of internal audit were not subject to any inappropriate limitations last year. I'm going to start at paragraph 2.7, which is on page 12 of your pack. And I just wanted to draw the committee's attention to the postponement of our planned external assessment. So every 5 years, we should be subject to external assessment to verify our compliance with the public sector internal audit standards. However, given the uncertainty surrounding the coronavirus COVID-19, a decision was taken to postpone this from November 2020 to no later than May 2021. As it says in the report, this is a result of the impact of COVID-19, and we have discussed that at SIAS board. At 2.8, our internal assessment concluded that we generally conform with PSIAS. This is the highest rating available, and there are 2 areas of deliberate non-compliance, and they're at Appendix C, and I'll talk you through those when we get to Appendix C rather than jumping up and down the report now. So we are generally conformant with PSIAS. Continuing down the report to 2.11, the head of assurance has confirmed during the year that no matters threatened SIAS independence and that we weren't subject to any inappropriate scope or resource limitations. I don't know whether at this point you would like to seek the views of the Service Director of Resources to confirm that from an officer side.
I very much would.
I am happy to confirm that likewise from officer side, that is also true.
Lovely, thank you. And then 2.12 in the report, but you can see that satisfactory assurance was given for both financial and non-financial systems. This is consistent with last year, where satisfactory was given in both. The tables in section 3 at section 3.2 give you a comparison to last year in brackets. So in 1920, we only delivered 1 limited audit report in comparison to 1819, where we delivered 3. We delivered 4 good assurance reports, which is a great result. But a significant number of the reports we did fell in the satisfactory area, which gives me confidence that we're looking at the right things. But the fact that we only raised 1 high priority recommendation should give the committee some assurance that there are sound systems of control in place for the areas that we've looked at during 1920. If we carry on down the report to paragraph 3.6, this talks about the limited assurance opinion that was provided in that 1 audit. This audit and the recommendation associated with it was reported to the committee during 1920 and has been seen, as well as the recommendation followed up through the follow-up process of this committee. At 3.7, we've just detailed the audits there that are still at draft report, of which I think many of those have now been finalised. You have to forgive me, I've been redeployed out of SIAS for the last 3 months, so I'm not 100% sure which ones have and have not, but I know there's a good portion of them that have been finalised. And then if we follow down to section 4, the table at 4.1, this highlights our performance against the key performance indicators for 1920. Overall, at the end of the year, we delivered in excess of 95% for the 2 key performance indicators around planned days and planned projects. I think personally for me, I felt that was a fantastic performance at North Herts to deliver 99% of the billable days and fall just 1 project shy of delivering 100%. The project that did fail to get to draft report by 31st of March was impacted by COVID-19 because it was a shared piece of work across all the partners of the Herts Home Improvement Agency, of which HCC are the operational delivery vehicle for it, and their resources were very much directed towards a response to the COVID-19 during the last couple of weeks in March, which curtailed any audit work we would need to do there. So overall, it was a really positive year at North Herts last year. Some good assurance opinions, some really positive assurance opinions, as well as delivering well against our key performance indicators. Section 5 talks about the audit charter, and that's appended at Appendix D. There's no material changes in the charter from previous years, from last year even. It is essentially the same document. The only updates are around dates and things like that that may have been included. I talked about the areas of deliberate non-conformance with PSIAS, and at Appendix C, this table just details why we are not conforming with them. Again, this is the same every single year that PSIAS has been in place for us to measure ourselves against, and it's due to the structure of SIAS and where we sit within HCC in terms of direct reporting lines. It doesn't impact on our ability to deliver against the standards. As I've said, we're generally conforming with the standards, which is the highest rating that we could have. And then Appendix D is the full charter, and that's that report. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Any questions at all? If you raise your hand. We get through our whole meeting with no one raising any questions. Okay, I just want to say congratulations. That's some really great results and in extraordinary circumstances. So thank you for that. Ian, did you want to add any commentary around that? I know that you wrote to me about the table at 3.2, which I think is interesting. Maybe worth just picking that up.
Yeah, I think the table at 3.2, the fact that we're having more or fewer kind of good assurance reports, but more in the satisfactory section in terms of percentage, hopefully means that we're targeting the audits at the right things. We do deliberately try and find areas that are worth looking at, where we want to just check out that the controls really are effective, rather than just going through the same audits over and over again, which can be tempting to do. But we do sort of target an audit plan at areas of concern or areas that might be of concern. So the fact then that coming out of that, we've still got a satisfactory assurance level, I think it's good news for the organisation it controls.
Brilliant. Yeah, I agree. Well done to all. Okay, if there are no other raised hands, we'll move to a vote on these recommendations then. So we've got 4 to consider. First is to note the annual assurance statement and the internal audit report. To note the results of self-assessment that are required by PSIAS and the quality assurance and improvement programme. To accept the audit charter and to seek management assurance that the scope and resources, which we've done, right, we're not subject. So we've done that already, but if we could just choose those, look at those other 3 recommendations. And Matthew, can we take a vote on this? Is everyone happy to do that? If you vote yes to accept those recommendations, and no if you don't. Everyone? Councillor?
Just waiting.
Yes, lovely.
Yeah, thank you. That's carried.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, Mark, back to you then for the SIAS programme progress report, please.
Thank you. Just scrolling through. So as you can appreciate, this is probably a smaller report than we might normally bring to this committee. Given that the first couple of months were very, very challenging in terms of being able to deliver any of our audit plan. Having said that, I'm pleased to report that we have delivered 8% of our audit days. So we have been, even through April and May, when I know everybody was adapting to working remotely and all the changes that were being made as a result of COVID-19, we were still able to begin our audit work with the support of Service Director of Resources, which was really, really helpful for us internally to keep our resources occupied, but also to start moving the audit plan forward and start providing some assurance. The table at 2.2, this highlights all the reports that have been finalised since the last committee. So the last committee at the 4th of March, on the 16th of March, sorry. These are all the reports that have been finalised since then. They all relate to 1920 work. At the time of writing this report, we hadn't finalised any 2021 reports, but I can report that we have delivered one final report now, and that will be reported to the next committee in September. There are no high priority recommendations that have been made as a result of the work highlighted at the table above. The paragraph at 2.7 is worth drawing your attention to, because as at the moment we haven't made any amendments to the annual audit plan. This will be reviewed given the impact of COVID-19 and the kind of resulting impact that's had on service delivery, both for us in SIAS and for our partners. This has been discussed again at SIAS board around our ability to deliver 100% of the plan in a reduced amount of time, and our internal capacity to be able to do that. So I don't have any further update at this point, because I know discussions are ongoing between Section 151 officers and the head of SIAS in terms of the way forward. But I did want to draw the committee's attention to the fact that there will be changes to the plan, and these will be reported through the normal mechanisms. So in terms of performance, I'll take you to the table at 2.9. So as you can see there, in terms of planned days, we've delivered 8% of our planned days, and we've managed to deliver one project to draft report, which, as I've said before, given the challenges we've had in terms of service delivery, I think that's a tremendous effort from the team to have delivered one audit report with the support of officers within North Herts. So my thanks go out to the officers that have supported the audit so far, because I realise that's probably not been at the top of their agenda in terms of their changes to their working environment and patterns. The last thing that I would like to draw your attention to is the high priority recommendation at Appendix B. This has now been marked as implemented. So from the next committee report, that will not appear in there because it's been reported as implemented at this committee. And that finishes that report from me. I'll take any questions.
Brilliant, thank you. Any questions or comments from anyone? Nothing at all? Okay, crikey. Everyone's very quiet and well behaved when we're like this, aren't we? All right. So should we move straight to a vote then? Let me just flip back into my other document. 1 second. Let's see where we are with things to note. So I think there's just two things on this, isn't there? So it is to note the internal audit progress report for the period to the 18th of May 2020, and to note the implementation status of the high priority recommendations, and noting that they are complete. So we'll move to a vote on that. If you can just vote using your yes or no buttons. Matthew, are you okay with that? We're ready with that? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready when you are, Chair.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, that's all done. That's carried.
Wonderful, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and then we'll move on to the Finance Audit and Risk Committee annual report. So Ian, would you like to present this?
Yes, thank you. So in the past, this report has been referred on to full council. This is no longer required by the Constitution. So this is just really for the Audit Committee to note. I guess there is a question about whether this report is produced in future, but I'll leave that to you to have a think about after seeing it after the discussion tonight. It provides a summary of the work undertaken by the committee during the previous year and a brief look forward, which is noted by reading through the report. And as you'll note, for the Audit Committee, the activities and the reports you see are fairly cyclical in nature, so you see on a quarterly basis, and there's some things that happen every year. I think the one thing to draw your attention to is there is an error on page 49. The date at the bottom of that paragraph on page 49 should be May 2020, not May 2019. Happy to take any questions, but otherwise the report, I mean, is a description of what happened during the previous year.
any hand raised at all? Wow. Nothing at all. Ah, Sam Collins.
Unfortunately, it's not a question. It's just a slight clarification. I wasn't on the committee full time last year, so not sure if I should vote on this one because I can't comment on everything that's in the report, though it looks fine to me from reading all the minutes and stuff.
Are you saying because you were a substitute, you weren't on the full committee?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, and the same would be true for Adam. Matthew, can you advise on that?
Thank you, Chair. I will refer to that to Mel, Democratic Services Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think it's a case of leaving it to the individual members to really decide on this one, whether they feel that they've been involved and have enough information on the previous things they've read and been involved in, and also in this report, as to whether they wish to vote or whether they wish to abstain on this. As we say, this item is for noting, and there is a question already been posed about the future of the report as well.
Okay. So if you do want to abstain, then it's the blue raise hand if you feel more comfortable doing that. But other than that, the recommendation is to note the Finance Audit and Risk Annual Report. So if everybody's happy, we'll move to a vote on that. So yes, if you're happy to note it, no if you're not, and then raise hand if you'd like to abstain.
Thank you, Chair. So I've got 3 yeses and 2 abstentions.
And that's carried. Thank you. Ian, over to you again for revenue budget outturn for 1920, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. So table 3 on page 56 details the major variances above 25,000. The most 2 significant ones to draw your attention to are in relation to Careline alarms equipment and the move to digital alarms, which provides a better service and is an investment that in the short term will pay off in the longer term on the basis the original alarms are more expensive, but they could be used more and more times, and therefore hopefully over the next few years that cost will come down again as those alarms are reused. And the other thing to point out is there are 2 examples in there, whilst it relates back to 1920, of the very quick implications of COVID-19 on the council's finances, which were council tax summons and parking income. So they can both of those cases see kind of quite quick implications that hit the council's budget just in that last sort of 2 or 3 weeks of the year. Overall, looking at the last column, the estimated impacts on 2020-21. Looking at that in the description, it's hoped that whilst there's an impact in the next year, there won't be an ongoing impact, which will impact on the council's need to make longer term savings and meet those targets that I'm suppose you're all aware of from the various medium-term finance strategy and budget reports you've seen over the last few years. Paragraph 8.12, which is on page 62, again, relates back to COVID-19 again, I'm afraid. And this is an historic sort of thing that's been going on over a sort of reasonable length of time, is that got to go back a few years. The eligibility for council tax reduction was going down as council tax levels increased, and that created a net nil effect. But over the last year, 2 years, that started to plateau in terms of the number of council tax reduction people being eligible is starting to sort of level off and starting to increase. And that's really come to the fore since this report's been written and earlier into this year, is that obviously the economic impact of COVID-19 has meant that the eligibility for council tax reduction is increasing. And this is one of the areas where there'll be a quite significant impact both in 2020-21 and can also see that going on into the future until there is a fuller economic recovery, which means people can fully pay their council tax again. So I just wanted to highlight that in terms of the report and future implications. And as an update to paragraph 8.15 on page 63, this relates to the business rates pilot, which is a sort of pool type arrangement that all the authorities in Hertfordshire were a part of the year of 2019-20. Gain from that has now been confirmed as £917,000, which will increase the general fund balance as at the end of 2019-20. Not by the full amount of that gain, because of the way that the flows of money work in relation to business rates, but it does increase the general fund balance as reported in table 6 on page 64 up to 9.4 million. Just for a bit of background on business rates, the council sets its budget based on the baseline needs, which is what is assessed by central government as the amount of business rates the council needs to retain to fund its services. The actual income the council received is made up of the actual payments from businesses and also by section 31 grants from central government, where government have determined there should be a mandatory statutory business rate relief for certain types of business. The council's total income has been above this baseline for a number of years, particularly in years of being part of a business rates pool, which is slightly different to a business rate pilot, but a similar thing where you kind of get some benefit out of it by joining other authorities. And this has meant that in most of the previous years, we've been able to transfer that pooling gain and also some of the section 31 grants into a business rates reserve. This is partly to reflect the timing differences in the business rate system. So why should I get income business rates in one year? You might end up getting the actual cash in terms of real terms a different year. But it also reflects the uncertainty over income, and that at some point in the future, again, it's one of the things that's been impacted by the ever-changing and ever-delayed reform to the way local government is funded. There will be a reset of the business rate system, which will probably mean that the level of business rates retained will go down, and therefore that kind of gain we've been accumulating over a number of years will be lost. It also reflects the significant uncertainty in business rates, particularly at the current time. In terms of the balance in that business rates reserve now, which is actually termed the MHCLG grant reserve, we use the papers further down, which I'll come to in a minute. The balance is now at such a level where it does need a review. It probably is a bit too high. We've already committed in the budget for 2020-21 to release £368,000 of that reserve, which related to the pooling gain in 2018-19. So that's being used to fund the budget in 2020-21. But there's probably more that we can release. However, we've got to bear in mind that that needs to be balanced against the significant uncertainty that the business rate system will face in 2020-21 and probably going forward into 2021-22 as well. Balance about how much release from the reserve, which then will provide future protection to ups and downs. Equally, we release it from the reserve, it can go into general fund balances, provides with money now. So that's kind of a bit of a summary of the business rate system to kind of explain what that reserve's doing. And if you look at the table on page 65, table 8, it's the MHCLG grants reserve, which you'll see the balance at the 31st of March is at 3.7 million. That was the main things I wanted to highlight from the report. But obviously there is more detail in there, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments on anything I've ever covered or anything I've not covered as well.
Lovely, thank you very much, Ian. There's an awful lot in there. Councillor Sam Collins, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I'm gonna ask 3 questions. 2, and these are to Ian. 2 are very closely linked, and 1 follows on from what he was just saying. I notice in this report that we've taken a £62,000 hit on projected parking revenues for March this year. Obviously, lockdown kicked in halfway through, so it's not surprising we've lost a chunk of cash on that. Now, considering almost nobody was parking in our town centres, our car parks, in April and May, could you give us a sort of idea of where we might be in terms of a financial hole as a result of nobody parking and us not getting any of those revenues? My sort of back of the well, I don't smoke, but back of a fag packet calculation puts it about $250,000, but I'm not sure if that's right. And on top, and then in relation to that, obviously with business rates, we are already seeing the impact of the recession. Well, it's not officially recession yet, but we are seeing businesses close down in our town centres. That's going to have an impact on various factors, jobs and rates in terms of council tax and business rates going forwards. So could you give us some idea of how bad things are going to be? And then the third question, which is the unrelated bit, is you were just talking about shuffling some cash around. Is that something we as a committee need to make a recommendation to Cabinet about? And if so, what are you recommending?
Thank you, Councillor Collins. Ian, did you want to come in on those? Have you written those questions down?
Yes, I've written that. I'm trying to write it down as Councillor Collins is talking. So in terms of parking income, we have been looking at various models and estimates to sort of see what we think the full year impact of parking will be, and that will depend on how quickly the economy and parking, therefore in town centres, recovers post lockdown. So looking at various scenarios, I was just trying to find the actual number we used. I'm just going to open up something that will just give me the answer, so I don't have it off the top of my head. So I'll jump to the second question and come back to that in 2 seconds, if that's all right. In terms of business rates, yes, you're right. There already are businesses that are starting to close down, which is very unfortunate. It's a slightly difficult one for the first year because at the moment there are lots of businesses who are getting mandatory relief from the various reductions that the central government brought in relation to business rates. And that provides with some protection in this year, in that we've got some guaranteed income that's being funded by government. And also there's a lot of businesses, particularly in sort of, I suppose, some of our town centres that don't pay business rates anyway, because the value of their property means that they get full exemption for business rates. So at this stage, our business rate income's not been too bad, factoring the money we'll get from central government, but as we go through the year, there might be some bigger impacts. A number of businesses, particularly at the smaller end, have been receiving business grants, which have been funded by central government, and that's helped protect them for a short period, so they're still in business at the moment. But I guess as the longer term impacts on those businesses start to unwind, that's when we could see some failing businesses, unfortunately. So at the moment, it's not one of the bigger concerns in terms of impact on our finances, but it could be in the medium term. I think it was just to say, both on this question and the one about parking, what I'm intending to do and what I will be doing is that as part of the medium term financial strategy, which will be coming to this committee in next month and then on to Cabinet and then on to full council, I'll do a report alongside that to all three that starts to provide some forecasts to make everyone aware of what we see as the financial impacts of COVID-19. And so that will be coming to that committee next month. And in terms of the particular question around parking, I will now just have a look at it. So we were looking at in the first 2 months, April and May, looking at a 9% reduction in ticket income, and then smaller reductions in both season ticket renewals, resident park permits, and PCNs. We weren't enforcing, we weren't doing the same level of enforcement on parking in those months, and that was equated to about £216,000 a month, so about £450,000 across the first 2 months of the year. And then we've been looking at various models around how that's going to recover. And one of the scenarios we looked at would give a total impact across the year about £1.4 million lost parking income in total. It certainly is one of the biggest areas in terms of hit on our finances from the impact of COVID-19. Obviously, if the economy recovers much more quickly and parking recovers more quickly, that impact would be less. It just depends. We just don't know at the moment how it will come about.
Sorry, Ian, can I just interject there? Did you? I missed the number that you said. Was it? What I thought I heard 1.4 million. 1.4
million. Yeah. If there is a slow recovery in the level of parking income, it takes basically all year to sort of gently, gradually recover back to normal levels. Yeah, we're looking at potentially up to £1.4 million hit.
And am I right in thinking that we've now resumed ticketing? I know that we were only looking at safety issues, but I'm right in thinking that we've now resumed contravention issues, have we? Parking contraventions?
We're moving back towards that. We're starting off with a little notes on windscreens, so they should be paying for the first week, and then after that we'll be moving back to more full enforcement of non-payment for parking.
Okay.
And Councillor Collins, I didn't write down the first question. Can you just remind me what it was again, please? Sorry.
Yeah, you were talking about shuffling some cash about because of the sort of imbalance, and there's too much money in one pot and not enough in another, perhaps. It was more a procedural question, because you seem to think that there was too much in one pot and we probably needed to move some from reserve or the other way around. But you didn't make a specific recommendation, and I was asking, do we as this committee need to make that recommendation to Cabinet of what you're suggesting? And if so, what are you recommending that we recommend?
Okay, not for any decision now. What it will do is to form part of the medium-term financial strategy. Will make reference to it and start to do some modelling based on it. It won't be until we get the full budget for next year in February, full February council, that will make any formal decision on it. In the short term, there's no impact of it being in one pot rather than another pot. It's just around looking at longer-term financial planning, and it kind of comes back to Suresh's point from Ernst & Young around sort of going concern assessments and making sure we've got the money to fund out general fund expenditure on an ongoing basis. And I'm confident we have got the money there to do it. It's just a case of getting the money in the right place. So it forms part of those two documents rather than a decision now from this committee.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ian. Steve Deacon-Davis, your hand is raised.
Chair, I would be very interested to know if Careline makes any form of profit.
Steve, I'm really sorry, but your audio is very, very difficult to hear. Could you repeat that and maybe get really close?
I will lean in closer.
Perfect.
I am interested to know, please, if Careline makes a profit.
Does Careline make a profit? Is the question.
No, it doesn't make a profit. Careline covers its direct costs and provides some contribution towards overheads. It doesn't make a profit, no.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me? Is that clear enough?
Yeah.
I have in the past been involved with organisations just like Careline, including a £5 million one, and they all made profits. Is there a way that our commercial team can look at making profit on Careline costs of this electric equipment?
I think what I heard was, is there a way that we can make profit from Careline in order to assist with some of the income issues?
Yes, that was what I asked, yes.
Ian, do you want to take that question?
Yeah, let me take that away, and I will talk to relevant people around what the options are. I mean, the implications were, if it was to make profit, and this is not a reason not to do it, is that it would then have to be sort of spun off into its own company. But you know, that's what the commercial team is about, is around making money, and if it needs to go into a company to do so. I know it's been looked at in the past, and I'm sure it'll be the same we'll look at again, and I'll take that back to both the commercial team and the Careline team, see what we can do.
Thanks very much. I'll be very interested in that.
Morgan, Derbyshire, your hand was up and down and up and down.
Point of clarification, I've already sorted out.
Again, sorry, Morgan, your audio is very poor. Are you able to hold the microphone closer to your mouth?
It's just a point. Can you hear me better now?
Point of clarification.
No. Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore.
Right. So I heard it's a point of clarification that no longer matters. Okay. Anyone else like to raise their hand? Thank you, Morgan. I think it's important when looking at the recommendations for whether or not Careline can be profitable, that we note that hasn't come through the committee as a kind of voted recommendation, but that's one member asking whether or not we could look into that, so that this group could then re-look at that once we understand the implications. I think that's quite an important part to note. Are you comfortable with that, Councillor Deacon Davis? Thumbs up, thumb will do.
Yeah.
Okay. Audio and visual, so this is good. All right, are there any further hands raised, or anyone that wants to raise a hand? No. All right. So what we have to vote on here is whether or not we're going to note this and forward it to Cabinet. And then there are a number of things that we are recommending that Cabinet do and asking for their consideration. So we're forwarding this to Cabinet for them to note, for them to approve the decrease of 129,000 in the 1920 net general fund expenditure as identified in table 3 to a total of 14.692 million. We would be saying to Cabinet that we recommend that they approve the changes to the 2021 general fund budget as identified in table 3 in para 8.2 to a total of £344,000 increase in net expenditure, and that, as referred to in paragraph 8.3, that we will be recommending that Cabinet approve the transfer of 59k from the underspend on the general fund to strategic priority funds, that shuffling of cash, to enable the leadership team to undertake, invest, save and or continuous improvement projects. And then we would be asking Cabinet to send that forward to Council. So we now need to vote on that. If we were in the room, we'd do a bit of a nods and hands, but I would prefer if we could vote properly. So if we could do the yes if you're happy that we send that to Cabinet, and no if you are not, and if you want to abstain, if you just raise your hand.
Okay, Chair, that's carried, yeah.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Right, Ian, back to you. Investment strategy, capital and treasury, end of year review.
Thank you, Chair. So just sort of going through the key aspects of this report. So looking at paragraph 4.2 on page 73. This is a brief reminder of the key considerations in relation to investment, treasury investments, and the importance of security, liquidity, and then yield. Brief summary there. And then jumping forward to paragraph 8.4 and table 2, which details the capital schemes that have slipped from 2019-20 into 2021. It's quite normal at this stage of the year to have few projects slipping between the 2 years. It's actually quite a short list compared to some years. What we're trying to do now is where there are going to be slippages of projects between years, we try and catch them early. Paragraph 8.5 and table 3 on page 77, there's the one capital scheme there. There's actually been a reduction in spend compared to budget. And then moving forward to paragraph 8.9 on page 78, which details the council still has a negative capital financing requirement, which means it does not need to and therefore cannot borrow for capital spend. So we've still got capital reserves we can use to spend on capital projects. And then moving into the Treasury section, paragraphs 8.10 to 8.18, which provides a summary of that position, how the council invests its surplus cash on a sort of regular basis, managing its cash flows to make sure maybe it needs it, but also gaining some interest by investing it where it can. Paragraph 8.18, another look forward, and unfortunately mentioning COVID-19 again, I'm sorry, this is a bit of a recurring theme. So the expected impact of COVID-19 on investment returns. Members might note the Chief Executive approved a urgent decision on behalf of full council in relation to the investment strategy. The limit on balances in our current account would be removed, so we can have whatever balances you want in the current account since that was removed, and that was in relation to in response to COVID-19. That reflected that we did receive a lot of additional cash from government, many money to go back out again in terms of business grants, and also the uncertainty about our income and our funding. Therefore, we've been investing significant sums short term, both by keeping it in our current account, but also placing it in central government deposits in something called the Debt Management Office, or DMO. Both of these have a nearly zero yield. They don't pay us the interest, but they're convenient places to put our cash for short term and help to maintain our cash flow in these uncertain times. I think what that paragraph is also alluding to is that in next year, and certainly the first quantum month, we'll provide an update on this, there will be a hit on our investment returns, just the fact that we have been keeping money short term rather than longer term investments, and also the underlying interest rates are decreasing. So the few investments we have made that haven't been in the current account or in that DMO deposit have been at lower returns than what we've been used to. So that was the kind of key highlights in the report that I wanted to bring out, but anything that I haven't covered, happy to take any questions or comments on.
If we can just pause a moment, because we've lost
I think
the
we just
chair.
lost the chair.
Yeah, we've lost the chair. So if we can just adjourn a moment, just whilst we try and get the chair back.
And I think Councillor Derbyshire is trying to say something, but he's not. I can't hear him.
Councillor Derbyshire, we can't hear you at all.
You could use the chat functionality.
Would it help if you took your earphones out, Councillor Derbyshire? I just wonder whether they're causing an issue.
Councillor Derbyshire, if you pull the jack out your PC or tablet and push it back in again.
He has.
He has.
Oh, Councillor Aspinall's now coming back in.
Chair, it's okay. We've just adjourned the meeting a moment as we realised we'd lost your connection. So we've just paused the meeting for you.
Apologies for that. I don't know what happened, Ian. It was nothing personal, I promise.
Can I just suggest that if Councillor Derbyshire can be seen but not heard, much as I'd like to make a comment about that, there is a chat functionality on here, and maybe if he wanted to ask a question, he could ask it that way and the chair could read it out, so he's not excluded.
Or Councillor Derbyshire, would you, if you've got your email to hand, if you wanted to email me it and I can relay it?
Okay, Mel, if I could just ask a note of clarity here. So I was in the middle of Ian's report. We were just getting to the end of it. I think we were certainly in 8 point something. I can't remember which paragraph we were looking at. And my screen froze. So what does that mean? What do we pick up where we left off? Or
yeah, we just pick up where we left off because we adjourned as soon as we lost you. I realised we lost you. We adjourned straight away. We just pick up where we left off. And I do believe Councillor Deacon Davis has raised his hand. I think, Ian, you had got to the end of your presentation of your report, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, that's correct.
And Councillor Deacon Davis wishes to speak, and I believe Councillor Derbyshire is in the process of emailing me.
wonderful. Okay, Steve Deacon Davis, if you want to ask your question, please.
Very much. Two questions. One of them I'm interested to know if you can hear me. So no, the second one is, what is the projected return on investment in the commercial activities that we do? Because if we've got return rates to do with our banking and to do with our building societies, what are we looking for from activities that we're doing commercially? And the second question is how much are we investing in cloud computing so we don't have to spend tens of thousands of quid on servers?
Okay, Ian, I don't know whether you'll be able to answer thoroughly the commercial question. I know that's not necessarily your area, but do you want to take both of those and then we'll see where we go?
Yeah, I think I'll probably have to take elements of both of them away to get full answers to. In terms of projected return on commercial investments, obviously we would look for a greater return than what we are getting on what are the relatively safer investments of our surplus cash. Although having said that, they are kind of different things. We can invest some of our surplus cash in commercial investments, but there are elements of our surplus cash we can't invest in commercial investments, but can invest in Treasury investments. I guess the expected return on a commercial investment would depend on the level of risk in that investment. And without kind of going into the detail of every single investment we're looking at, and a lot of them are at the stage about where we're looking at returns yet, I can't answer it. So I think that's probably something to pick up as the new commercial investments come along for cabinet approval as appropriate in the medium to longer term. In terms of cloud computing, I know it's something we're looking at, but in terms of response, I wouldn't want to give a response on behalf of IT without checking back with them first. So I'm sure I can get an answer for Councillor Deacon Davis, but I can't do it off the top hand.
Chair,
Okay.
I'm just sorry, Chair, I'm just to interrupt, but we have also lost Councillor Derbyshire for a moment, so I don't know if you just want to pause, see if we can get him back.
Temporarily pause, I think, and then we'll just see if we can get him back. And Steve, if you just want to hold fire on your question, please. Sam's dropped us, so that's a good sign. Did he manage to email you, Mel?
No, he didn't. I think it's obviously all connected and I didn't get the email. I've just tried to refresh to see, but I don't think it came through, so unfortunately.
Is there a reason why we don't use the chat function?
It wasn't on here because originally what we were using the chat function for was on the old system. We were using it for points of order, and because we couldn't do it any other way, so we haven't got that on there because we can like raise points of order in a different way. Now we've got a different system, so that's why we haven't got that chat function on here.
Okay, makes sense. Are we, if Morgan Derbyshire can't come back, are we able to continue and be quorate?
You're definitely quorate. And I mean, he's not waiting, so Chair, it might be worth just carrying on if you wish.
Okay, I think if everyone is happy to, we will. Steve Deacon Davis, would you like to come back on the commercialisation question? Or
yes, I would. Thank you, Chair. I would like us to formally ask, what are the targets return on investment on commercial activities? And I would also certainly like to get clarification on what the plans are for investments in cloud, because there will be significant cost savings on some of the amounts of money I've seen here to do with buying servers. So if we can do that, that would be great. Thank you.
Can I just ask the rest of the committee that remains here, Adam and Sam, are you both happy to forward those recommendations from this committee? If you could just thumbs up or thumbs down, that would be Great. Yeah, and a thumbs up from me too. So if we could forward those on, then so if we could have clarification around return on investment on our commercial activities. I know that with my colleagues in overview and scrutiny, we often ask the same question. This is something that we all would love to know, and are getting ever closer to all the time. So if we could just note that we continue to strive towards that, and would like that presented at this committee too, that would be great. And if we could have some I'm guessing cost benefit analysis on cloud computing, is that you know, that would be wonderful if we have the resource to do something like that. But personally, I'm happy with something quite quick and dirty to understand whether or not that's something that is viable perhaps in the medium term. I think Sam Collins wrote his on the back of a fag packet. That'll do.
Chair, just to clarify that,
Yeah.
I was interested to know how much money is being spent on finding out about cloud computing for us, so that we've got a figure, so we can take a judgment on, is it 1% of our cost of servers? Is it 30%? How much money are we spending on finding out about getting into cloud computing?
Oh, so you want a costing on the research for the cost benefit analysis?
And future planned costs, yeah.
Okay. I'm presuming that's a resource cost, Ian.
Yeah, can I chip in? I mean, we have got a recently approved IT strategy, which was approved in March 2020, which does talk about the move to cloud computing and start to look at areas where that's most relevant. So that's probably the best starting point in terms of that. And that was approved by Cabinet. So we can look at that first, but then we can move on from there if there are further questions from there.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with that. Okay. Shall we move to a vote on the recommendations for this? Unless there are any further hands. Steve, you still have your hand raised. Is that because you still have?
No, it's going down. Okay.
Going down. Okay. All right. Let me just go back to the other document. I have to enter a password every time I swap these documents over. I know I'm not doing something right. But I'm sure that you'll tell me it's seamless because you're all lovely. Right, okay, so we've got recommendations to send through on this investment strategy then. So we're recommending to Cabinet that they note the expenditure, 1.473 million on the capital programme, that they approve the adjustments to the capital programme for 2021 as a result of the revised timetable of schemes, increasing the spend by 0.277 million. That they note the position of the availability of capital resources as detailed in table 4, that they approve the application of 0.639 million of capital receipts towards the 1920 capital programme and the drawdown of 0.397 million of set aside receipts, paragraph 8.6, and that they note the position of Treasury management activity as at the end of March 2020. So we will be voting whether or not we will be happy to forward those recommendations to Cabinet for them to then forward those to Council. It'll be complicated, but please vote now. Yes, if you agree with those. No, if you don't. Raise your hand if you'd like to abstain. And we have Councillor Derbyshire back. I believe, Mel, just to be clear, that Councillor Derbyshire, oh no, we don't have him back, sorry.
No, we don't have him back, no.
Matthew's face popped up and I thought that was Morgan.
Sorry. Yeah, it's carried, Chair. That's 4 votes carried.
Okay, and it's quite evident that we're getting to the end of this meeting now. So we've just got one final item, which is possible agenda items for future meetings. So is there anyone who has any suggestions for what they would like to see in meetings going forward? Or are you happy to adhere to the programme of agenda items much led by Ian Cooper et al.? Any hands raised for anything they'd like to see on future meetings? Steve Deacon-Davis.
Inevitably, yes. I'd like to have a presentation at one of our meetings from the commercial team about their plans and also the return on investment. And also I'd like somebody from IT to turn up and talk to us about their spend on IT and the movement towards cloud. And also looking at, do we actually need to run our offices in the same way anymore since everybody's been working from home? So I'd like us to have a think about those types of questions.
That is a wonderful suggestion. I think the recovery plan and what the new normal looks like is a really great one to have here. Commercialisation projects, return on investment. I wouldn't want to stand on the toes of overview and scrutiny. I know they do a lot of work there, and I wouldn't want to duplicate work for officers, because I think that in many ways that's a very non-commercial thing to do, to tie officers up with writing reports for us when really the same things would be discussed. So I would, I'm very happy to take that conversation to my colleague David Levitt, who's the chair of Overview and Scrutiny, and ensure that we are getting the right reports at one of those two meetings. I think it's our job to scrutinise on a level, but it's obviously Overview and Scrutiny's job to scrutinise at a broader level. So if you're happy with that, Councillor Deacon Davis, I'll have a conversation with David and make sure that we're covering that in one of those two meetings. Does that satisfy you?
Yes, it does. We'll see what comes out of our own views, Scrutiny.
Oh, you broke up, but I definitely heard yes. Good enough for me. So the double thumbs. So so that's great. So and the cloud computing, I think that is that would be a very interesting thing to have included in the what does the new normal look like, and how can we impact that, and what impacts does that have on finance, audit and risk? I think that's something that we absolutely should be doing as part of our recovery. Ian, are you happy to lead the charge on including those on a future agenda?
Yeah, taking forward your points around not overlapping with scrutiny, so overviewing scrutiny, I think also recovery plan is one of those areas that could be an either, and just making sure we're not duplicating. In terms of recovery plan, I think we're still some time off. There's various stages of recovery we're working through at the moment, and looking at future office usage. Yes, completely agree. I think the office use in the future will be very different to what it has been pre-COVID. But give us a bit of time on that, because I think we need to adjust to what the various new normals might be.
Absolutely, I hear you. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's another conversation for myself to have with David Levitt, and we'll decide on where that sits best in terms of overview and scrutiny 1 year. So the whole kind of gamut, I think, is probably the right way to approach that. And are you, committee, happy for me to come back and report that at the next committee? Thumbs up. I'm loving the new voting. Anything else? I did see a couple of other hands raised, but they've gone back down again.
Yeah, Chair, you said what I was going to say. Great
minds. Okay, right. It's definitely time to stop tea for wine, so I'm going to adjourn this meeting now, unless there are any other comments. Matthew, can you help me? Is there anything further I need to do before we wrap this up?
No, just close in your normal way, Chair, and then IT and myself and Mel will take over from there, and then the meeting. That's fine.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining me this evening, and I'll see probably most of you tomorrow at Overview and Scrutiny. That's a wrap. Thank you.